most of you heard speak earlier, Adam is the Chief of Staff of the Combating Terrorism Technology Support Office of the U.S. Department of Defense, and our partner in this, in developing and running this program, and has just come out of the judging chamber with I see an envelope.
Good, we're good.
So please come up, Adam.
Okay, thanks. Okay, my first duty here is to introduce the judges, and then we'll go from there for the presentation. So first, the judges will just stand up one at a time after I read their bio, turn around, wave to you, we'll sit them back down, and we'll move along. Actually, the judges spent, not just the finals today, spent their day doing this, but spent weeks with people in their organization and their contacts, and then themselves, their brain power, in reviewing the 43 proposals we received. So obviously a big deal for us, and I thank each of you individually, and then, or collectively, and then individually I'll announce you now so everybody else can cheer for you and you'll feel good. Dr. Alex Bordetsky is a professor of information sciences at the Naval Postgraduate School. He's just about to complete his 3-month term as the Fulbright Senior Fellow at the Technion. Alex. Dr. Mike Harper is the Associate Director for Irregular and Expeditionary Warfare with the Office of Naval Research Global in the U.S. Navy. Dr. Harper's prior roles include Science Advisor for the U.S. Naval Forces Central Command and the U.S. Fifth Fleet, and as Acquisition Policy Manager in the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Michael? Joseph Lehman is an entrepreneur, high-tech executive, and technologist. He is currently pursuing his PhD at Tel Aviv University in natural language processing. Josie, thank you. Ayla Madelon is the Executive Director of the MIT Enterprise Forum. With 15 years of experience in high-tech and venture capital, Ayla lectures about high-tech entrepreneurship, business development, both at the Technion and Tel Aviv University. Ayla, thank you. And, oh, by the way, coordinated everything. Brigadier General Amnon Sofrin is currently working with ELTA Systems, managing intelligence and homeland security projects, and he is working on his PhD thesis at Haifa University as well. Amnon, thank you very much for participating. David Stavinsky is the Corporate Chief Scientist and Senior Vice President of Elbit Systems in charge of technology development, internal R&D, and intellectual property. David? Lou Wasserzug is the Science Advisor for my organization, the Combating Terror Tech Support Office. Prior to that, he served as the Program Manager for our organization's Explosives Detection Development Programs. Shana Yacobi is the CTTSO representative in Israel, overseeing programs executed under the organization's Cooperative Research and Development Agreement with the Israeli Ministry of Defense. And finally, Dr. Dees, I'd like to invite you up on the stage as well. Dr. Dees is the Director of Technical Programs at the State Department's Bureau for Counterterrorism. Dr. Dees provides policy oversight for the Technical Support Working Group in partnership with the Combating Terrorism Technical Support Office. He holds a PhD in microbiology from the Cornell University. Thank you, Peter, for leading the talk.
Well, it's my distinct honor and also a real privilege to introduce this afternoon's final speaker. I won't go into too much detail, but I would like to point out that Ambassador Daniel Shapiro is one of those individuals who has had a career that has spanned 2 of the significant branches of the U.S. government, having served for many years as a congressional staffer in both chambers of our Congress, which means he was working at the level where things really get done. And I don't say that to diminish anything about members of Parliament and other members of Congresses and legislatures legislatures around the world. But I think everyone realizes that the most critical aspects that allow the big boss to do the important job are done at the staffing level. Recognizing that degree of expertise and sophistication, he was subsequently recognized by President Obama to serve as his representative and ambassador here in Israel. So without further ado, I would like to welcome up Ambassador Daniel Shapiro.
Well, thank you, Peter. I'm grateful for the introduction and very excited to be with all of you today for this first ever Combating Terrorism Technology Startup Challenge here in Israel. And I can't think of a better place to host this event. I want to thank and congratulate all the finalists, all the teams, all those who participated in the challenge, whether you succeed in winning it or not. I want to thank you for your dedication. I want to thank you for your ingenuity and really ask that the 7 finalists who do not win today and the 30-some others who participated in this challenge not take any discouragement, rather take from this all the lessons of what is possible. You're all going to be successful entrepreneurs, innovators. You're going to save a lot of lives with the technologies you're developing, and to please, please stay committed to the work you're doing. I also want to thank all the many representatives of the U.S. Department of Defense and State Department and the Technical Support Working Group and other U.S. government officials who are here and sponsoring this program together with the MIT Forum. The Startup Challenge is a very creative endeavor. It's an innovation in and of itself, and it seeks to harness the energies of small groups and companies who can help us stay ahead of the ever-evolving threats posed by terrorists and criminals. Terrorist organizations like ISIL have proven themselves to be learning organizations who are adapting and changing the technologies and the methods that they're using. And the only response that means we must have is to learn faster than the terrorists do. And that's something all of you are helping us do. Now, there's no better place to launch this inaugural challenge than here in Israel, the startup nation, known for its innovation, known for its focus on security, known for its embrace of technology and its prowess in the development, both in entrepreneurship and in the service of security. And unfortunately, Israelis know all too well the consequences of terrorist attacks against family members, against friends, against innocent neighbors and colleagues. This morning's attack in Tel Aviv on a bus is just another example of that threat that people here face going about their daily lives every single day. We, of course, condemn this morning's attack in the strongest possible terms and wish all those who are wounded a speedy recovery. Just last week, I attended the funerals in Jerusalem of the 4 French Jewish victims of the terrorist attacks in Paris, those heinous attacks, and that served as yet another reminder that terrorism really knows no borders. Now, President Obama has demonstrated that this is a high priority of his administration as well, and he reiterated it last night in his State of the Union address. Fighting terrorism remains at the top of our agenda, and I'll quote the President. He said, "First, we stand united with people around the world who've been targeted by terrorists, from a school in Pakistan to the streets of Paris," and I'd add the streets of Tel Aviv. He also added that we're going to continue to hunt down terrorists and dismantle their networks, and we reserve the right to act unilaterally. And he said that as the U.S. has done on numerous occasions, whether it was in the operation to eliminate Osama bin Laden or countless other operations targeting imminent threats against the United States or our allies. We're also building coalitions and working in concert with allies and partners to defeat the common threats of terrorism that we face. Now, the fight against terrorism obviously has to be a global one, involving the sharing of information and intelligence to counter the threat of extremists and to deter youth from radicalization. Toward that end, President Obama has announced that he will host next month a summit on countering violent extremism in Washington to educate American leaders and their counterparts abroad on ways of integrating law enforcement, mental health professionals, religious leaders, and others, local authorities, into the fight to curb violent extremist activity. The goal of this summit is to highlight domestic and international efforts to prevent violent extremists and their supporters from radicalizing, recruiting, and inspiring individuals or groups in the United States and abroad to commit acts of violence, something that the current threat of ISIL really brings home the need for, as so many foreign fighters have traveled to join that organization. We also need cross-border cooperation in researching and developing the tools necessary to identify, locate, and track terrorists and render their efforts harmless. Now, of course, the United States and Israel have a long history of working together on such efforts. Our research and development program linking the Counterterrorism Technical Support Office and Technical Support Working Group with their Israeli counterparts at Mafat and the Ministry of Defense goes back over 20 years, which is really an amazing achievement. Together, we've developed technologies that detect rocket attacks, that locate concealed weapons, that remotely locate improvised explosive devices, and identify harmful explosives. We'll continue our work together in vital R&D programs to address other current threats, such as tunnel detection and destruction, something Israelis are very focused on following Operation Protective Edge, and the development of improved armor for our troops, which has been a critical element to saving the lives of American and U.S. forces in the battlefield. And recently, our Department of Defense and the Ministry of Defense in Israel renewed a 10-year memorandum of agreement to invest an additional $500 million in each other's efforts. We really find great synergy and partnership in our joint efforts. We've also increased our intelligence sharing. We hold frequent meetings among our counterterrorism experts to discuss trends and methods to cut off finance and supply networks to terrorist organizations and to develop and enforce sanctions to those who violate such efforts. Now, what makes today's event unique is its focus on leveraging the power of entrepreneurship to advance security efforts. In this field, not only are companies pursuing what makes sense for their business, but also what makes the world a safer place, what really saves lives and makes it possible for the democratic principles that are so important to both of our societies to thrive. We've just heard, well, you've heard through the day, or I guess we're about to hear more about the finalists and their projects. I've been reading about them, and I have to say it's a rather incredible display of ingenuity, of innovation, and how Israelis, and I guess we have an American finalist as well, have managed to build on recent technological advancements to create security-related applications. It's really extraordinary. We have technologies that flag images in the blink of an eye, that filter out unwanted noise in a noisy environment, that detect explosives with a spark, that build safety networking through crowdsourcing, 3D intelligence mapping, security crowdsourcing, early detection of nearby threats, and water safety sensors. Just a few years ago, it would be unimaginable that any of these technologies would exist, much less that they'd be developed and ready to come into the market for actual application in the fight against terrorism. Once they're further developed, and again, both the winner today will develop that technology, and those who don't win today will also go on and develop those technologies. That work is going to help law enforcement and public safety officials around the world better serve and protect innocent lives. There's really no higher value for Israelis, for Americans, than the value of saving lives. And I really want to salute all those who have undertaken these efforts because that is a value worth saluting. So I will pause here as I think the finalists will be reintroduced, and then, or am I ready for the envelope?
Let's just bring a finalist up.
All right, so we'll do that, and I look forward to congratulating the finalists. Thank you very much.
Yeah, please take this off. No.